Ruth chapter 2 is a beautiful and touching story. It reminds us that even in sadness, there is always hope. Ruth and her mother-in-law Naomi are facing a very difficult time. They have lost their husbands. They are now alone, but God is always with them. This chapter shows us God's enduring love. He cares deeply for those who are hurting. He provides for all their needs. God works through ordinary people to help us all. The story takes place during the time of Judges. Life is hard. The people of Israel are struggling to survive in a land that is often harsh and unforgiving. The judges rule over the tribes, but their leadership is inconsistent, and the people frequently fall into hardship and despair. There is famine in the land. The once fertile fields have turned to dust, and the crops have withered under the relentless sun. The rivers and streams have dried up, leaving the land parched, and the people desperate for sustenance. Naomi and her family leave their home in Bethlehem to find food. They go to Moab. Tragedy strikes. The journey is long and arduous, but they are driven by the hope of finding a better life. However, their hopes are dashed when Naomi's husband Elimelech dies shortly after they arrive in Moab. Naomi's husband and 2 sons die. Her sons, Mahlon and Chilion, marry Moabite women Ruth and Orpah, but they too succumb to illness and pass away. Naomi is left heartbroken and bereft, mourning the loss of her entire family. She is left with her 2 daughters-in-law, Ruth and Orpah. The 3 women form a bond through their shared grief, supporting each other in their time of sorrow. Naomi, feeling the weight of her losses, decides that she must return to her homeland. Naomi decides to return to Bethlehem. She hears that the Lord has blessed her people with food once again, and she hopes to find solace and support among her kin. The journey back is fraught with uncertainty, but Naomi is determined to make it home. She tells her daughters-in-law to stay in Moab. Naomi believes that Ruth and Orpah will have a better chance of remarrying and finding happiness in their own land. She urges them to return to their families and start anew. Orpah, though reluctant, eventually agrees and bids Naomi a tearful farewell. Ruth loves Naomi. She refuses to leave her side. Ruth's loyalty and love for Naomi are unwavering. She clings to her mother-in-law, determined to stay with her no matter the cost. Ruth's devotion is a testament to the deep bond they share. She tells Naomi, "Where you go, I will go. Where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people and your God my God." Ruth is loyal. Her words are a powerful declaration of her commitment to Naomi, and they resonate with a profound sense of love and duty. She is determined to face the unknown with Naomi. Together, they embark on the journey back to Bethlehem, facing the challenges and uncertainties of the road ahead. Ruth's loyalty and courage shine brightly, offering hope and strength to Naomi in their time of need. Ruth and Naomi arrive in Bethlehem. They are poor and hungry. Ruth decides to glean in the fields. Gleaning is gathering leftover grain after the harvest. It is hard work, but Ruth is determined to provide for herself and Naomi. God's law provides for the poor and needy. Gleaning is an example of this. It allows those who are struggling to have food. Section 4. Boaz shows kindness. In the ancient land of Bethlehem during the time of the barley harvest, a story of compassion and generosity unfolds. Ruth, a Moabite woman who had recently lost her husband, goes to glean in the field of a man named Boaz. Gleaning was a practice where the poor and the widows could collect leftover grains from the fields after the harvesters had passed through. Ruth, determined to support herself and her mother-in-law Naomi, takes on this humble task with diligence and hope. Boaz is a relative of Naomi's late husband, Elimelech. He is a man of standing and wealth, known throughout Bethlehem for his integrity and kindness. His fields are vast, and his workers respect him deeply. He is a kind and generous man, always looking out for the well-being of others. His reputation as a benevolent landowner is well-deserved, and his actions reflect his deep faith and commitment to the laws of God. One day, as Boaz visits his fields, he notices Ruth gleaning among the sheaves. Her hard work and modest demeanor catch his eye. He inquires about her and learns of her loyalty to Naomi and her dedication to providing for her family. Boaz shows Ruth special favor. He approaches her and speaks kindly, offering her protection and ensuring she feels welcome in his fields. He tells her to stay close to his servant girls and to drink from the water jars his men have filled whenever she is thirsty. He tells his workers to leave extra grain for her. Boaz instructs his men to deliberately drop some stalks of grain for Ruth to gather, making her work easier and more fruitful. This act of kindness ensures that Ruth and Naomi will have enough to eat. He invites her to eat with him and his workers. Boaz protects Ruth. During mealtime, Boaz invites Ruth to join him and his workers. He offers her roasted grain and she eats until she is satisfied, with some left over. This gesture not only provides for her immediate needs but also shows her that she is valued and respected. He makes sure she feels safe. Boaz's concern for Ruth's safety is evident. He instructs his men not to harm her and to ensure she is not harassed while she works. His protective nature gives Ruth a sense of security and peace as she labors in the fields. Boaz's kindness is a reflection of God's love. God sees Ruth's faithfulness. Boaz's actions are a tangible expression of divine compassion. Through his kindness, Ruth experiences the love and provision of God. Her faithfulness to Naomi and her trust in the God of Israel do not go unnoticed. He provides for her through Boaz. In this beautiful narrative, we see how God uses Boaz to provide for Ruth and Naomi. Boaz's generosity and Ruth's diligence create a story of hope, faith, and divine provision. Through Boaz, Ruth finds not only sustenance but also a glimpse of God's unwavering love and care. Section 5. Trust in God's Plan. This section delves into the profound lessons we can learn from the story of Ruth, a tale that beautifully illustrates the importance of faith and trust in divine providence. Ruth chapter 2 teaches us about God's provision. In this chapter we see Ruth, a Moabite woman who has lost her husband and is living in a foreign land. Despite her circumstances, she remains loyal to her mother-in-law Naomi and decides to glean in the fields to provide for them both. This act of gleaning, though humble, is a testament to her faith and determination. He cares for us even when we don't see it. Ruth's story reminds us that even in our most challenging times, God is watching over us. We may not always understand his ways, but his love and care are unwavering. Ruth's decision to glean in the fields led her to Boaz, a kind and generous man who would play a crucial role in her life. God works in ways we don't expect. Ruth's encounter with Boaz was not a mere coincidence but a divine appointment. Boaz, moved by Ruth's loyalty and hard work, ensures she is protected and provided for. This unexpected blessing is a powerful reminder that God often uses ordinary circumstances to bring about extraordinary outcomes. He uses ordinary people to bless us. Boaz was an ordinary man, yet God used him to bless Ruth and Naomi abundantly. This teaches us that we too can be instruments of God's blessings to others. Our simple acts of kindness and generosity can have a profound impact on someone's life. Like Ruth, we may face difficult times. Life is filled with challenges and uncertainties. Ruth's journey from Moab to Bethlehem was fraught with hardship and sorrow. Yet she persevered, holding on to her faith and hope. Her story encourages us to remain steadfast in our faith, even when the road ahead seems bleak. We may feel lost and alone. There are moments in life when we feel abandoned and isolated, much like Ruth did. But her story reassures us that we are never truly alone. God is always with us, guiding our steps and providing comfort in our solitude. But we can trust in God's timing. Ruth's life took a turn for the better at the right time. God's timing is perfect, even when it doesn't align with our own plans. We must learn to trust that He knows what is best for us, and that His plans are always for our good. He is always working behind the scenes. Just as God orchestrated events in Ruth's life, He is also at work in our lives, often in ways we cannot see. His hand is in every detail, weaving a beautiful tapestry of our lives. He will provide for our needs. Ruth's story is a testament to God's provision. Despite her dire circumstances, she and Naomi never went hungry. God provided for them through Boaz's generosity. This reassures us that God will meet our needs no matter how desperate our situation may seem. Let us learn from Ruth's faith. Her unwavering trust in God, even in the face of adversity, is an example for us all. She teaches us to remain faithful and hopeful, trusting that God will guide us through our trials. Let us trust in God's love and provision. Just as He cared for Ruth and Naomi, He cares for us. His love is boundless and His provision is sure. We can rest in the assurance that He will never leave us nor forsake us. He will never leave us nor forsake us. This promise is a cornerstone of our faith. No matter what we face, we can hold on to the truth that God is with us, guiding, protecting, and providing for us every step of the way.
Ruth, a young widow from Moab, found herself in a foreign land. She clung to her mother-in-law Naomi, both of them grieving their losses. They arrived in Bethlehem with little to their name. Ruth, determined to provide for them, went to glean in the fields. She was an outsider, a foreigner, hoping for a shred of kindness. Little did she know she was stepping into a divine appointment. Ruth's heart was heavy with uncertainty. She was a stranger in a strange land. Yet she chose to trust in the God of Israel, the God Naomi had told her about. She went out in faith, believing that somehow God would provide. Day after day, Ruth worked diligently, gathering grain under the hot sun. She shared what little she gathered with Naomi, showing her unwavering kindness. Each evening, Ruth would look up at the sky, praying for guidance and strength. She found solace in the quiet moments resting under the shade of a tree. One day, a kind stranger noticed her hard work and offered her a kind gesture. Ruth was surprised and deeply grateful for this unexpected moment of grace. This encounter marked the beginning of a new chapter in Ruth's life, one filled with hope and support. With renewed purpose, Ruth embraced her journey, trusting that her faith would lead her to a brighter future. Together, Ruth and Naomi found joy in the small blessings, their bond growing stronger each day. As Ruth looked at the horizon, she felt a sense of hope, knowing that a new dawn was on the horizon. She walked into the sunset, feeling at peace and ready to embrace whatever the future held. Boaz, a wealthy landowner, noticed Ruth in his field. He saw her humility, her quiet strength as she worked tirelessly. He was drawn to her story, her devotion to Naomi, and her willingness to work hard. Boaz, a man of God, saw a woman deserving of kindness and respect. He extended it to her without hesitation. "Let her glean even among the sheaves, and do not reproach her," Boaz instructed his workers. He went further, ensuring she had enough to eat and drink, treating her with dignity and respect. Ruth was overwhelmed by his generosity. She recognized it as more than simple kindness. It was the hand of God at work in her life. Boaz's actions were not just about charity, they were about recognizing the divine encounter that had brought Ruth into his life. He prayed for wisdom and guidance, understanding that his role was to protect and provide for Ruth. Ruth, with renewed hope, continued to work diligently, feeling the support and kindness of Boaz. Their bond grew stronger, not just through words, but through shared moments and mutual respect. They walked together, sharing stories and dreams, building a connection that went beyond the fields. As the sun set, they both felt a sense of peace, knowing that their meeting was part of a greater plan. Ruth felt blessed, understanding that Boaz's kindness was a reflection of God's love and provision. Their journey together was just beginning, a journey filled with faith, hope, and divine encounters. Together, they would face challenges and celebrate victories, always guided by their faith and the kindness that brought them together. Boaz and Ruth's story was a testament to the power of kindness, faith, and divine intervention. Their lives were forever changed by an unexpected kinsman and the divine encounter that brought them together. Boaz's kindness was extraordinary, especially considering Ruth's Moabite heritage. Moabites were not favored in Israelite society, yet Boaz looked past cultural and societal barriers. He saw a woman in need, created in the image of God, and responded with compassion. His actions were a testament to God's love that transcends borders and prejudices. Boaz's compassion reflects the very heart of God, who loves all people regardless of their background or circumstances. His kindness pointed to a greater love story unfolding. Boaz's actions were not just about helping Ruth, they were about breaking down walls. In a time when cultural divisions were strong, Boaz's kindness was a beacon of hope. His willingness to embrace Ruth, a foreigner, showed a deep understanding of God's inclusive love. This act of kindness was a reflection of the divine love that knows no boundaries. Boaz's story reminds us that true compassion transcends cultural and societal norms. It calls us to see each person as a beloved creation of God, deserving of love and kindness. Boaz's kindness was a small part of a larger divine plan, a plan that would ultimately lead to the birth of King David and, much later, Jesus Christ. His actions were a foreshadowing of the ultimate act of love and redemption that would come through Jesus. Boaz's story is a powerful reminder that God's love is for everyone, regardless of their background or circumstances. It challenges us to break down our own barriers and extend kindness to all. Just as Boaz's kindness changed Ruth's life, our acts of compassion can have a profound impact on others. Let us be inspired by Boaz's example and strive to show God's love to everyone we encounter. For in doing so, we participate in the unfolding of God's greater love story. The story of Ruth and Boaz is a beautiful tapestry of grace woven into the grand narrative of redemption. Just as Boaz showed Ruth undeserved kindness and redeemed her situation, so too does Christ extend his grace to us. We are all like Ruth, strangers in a foreign land in need of grace. Boaz's actions foreshadowed the ultimate act of redemption, Jesus, our kinsman redeemer, who left his rightful place to redeem us from our helpless state. Ruth's story reminds us to trust in God's timing and to see his hand in every encounter. He is orchestrating divine appointments in our lives, weaving together a beautiful story of grace and redemption. Like Ruth, let us approach the throne of grace with humility and gratitude, trusting in the one who loves us unconditionally. The story of Ruth and Boaz is not just a historical account, but a living testament to the power of grace and redemption. It teaches us that no matter our past or our circumstances, we are never beyond the reach of God's love. Boaz's kindness to Ruth is a reflection of God's kindness to us, a kindness that is steadfast and unwavering. As we navigate our own lives, let us remember the lessons from Ruth and Boaz. Let us be kind and generous, showing grace to those around us just as Boaz did. And let us be like Ruth, who trusted in God's provision and timing in every season of life, whether in times of plenty or in times of need. God's grace is sufficient. He is weaving our lives into a beautiful tapestry, one that reflects his glory and love. So, let us live with faith and hope, knowing that we are part of a grand narrative of redemption, a story that is still being written, with each of us playing a unique and important role. Let us embrace our part in this divine tapestry and trust in the Master Weaver who is crafting a masterpiece of grace and redemption. Like Ruth, let us approach the throne of grace with humility and gratitude, trusting in the one who loves us unconditionally. Our Gap 2S, Ruth and Boaz's story continued to inspire generations. Their legacy of kindness and faithfulness became a cornerstone in the lineage of King David and, ultimately, Jesus Christ. This chapter explores the impact of their story on future generations and how it continues to resonate with us today. Gap 2S, we delve into the cultural and historical significance of their union and the profound message of redemption it carries. Through interviews with biblical scholars and theologians, we uncover deeper insights into the story of Ruth and Boaz and how their example of love and faithfulness can guide us in our own lives. Gap 2S, Dr. Sarah Jenkins, biblical scholar. The union of Ruth and Boaz is more than just a love story. It is a divine narrative that highlights the importance of faith, loyalty, and God's providence. Their story is a powerful reminder that no act of kindness goes unnoticed by God. Gap 3. S. Dr. Michael Thompson, theologian. Ruth's journey from a foreigner to a beloved member of the community exemplifies the transformative power of grace. Boaz's role as a redeemer mirrors the ultimate redemption we receive through Christ. Their story is a testament to God's inclusive love. Gap 2S. This chapter also includes reflections on how we can embody the same virtues in our daily interactions, fostering a community of kindness and compassion. Gap 2S. By embracing the principles of kindness, faithfulness, and redemption demonstrated by Ruth and Boaz, we can create ripples of positive change in our own communities. As we model their example, we contribute to a legacy that transcends time and culture. Gap 2S. Let us be inspired by their story and strive to live out these virtues, knowing that our actions have the power to impact future generations. Just as Ruth and Boaz's legacy shaped the lineage of a king, our own legacies can shine brightly in the tapestry of human history. Gap 2S. So let us take to heart the lessons from Ruth and Boaz and let their story be a guiding light in our journey of faith, love, and kindness. Their legacy is not just a historical account, but a living testament to the enduring power of grace and redemption. Gap 2S. As we reflect on their story, may we be encouraged to live out our faith with the same devotion and to extend God's love and grace to all those we encounter. The legacy of Ruth and Boaz continues to inspire, challenge, and transform us, reminding us that we are all part of God's grand narrative of redemption.
Friends, how are you doing today? I believe God has something special in store for us. Today, we're diving into Ruth chapter 2 to explore how God's provision is evident in our lives, even in the hardest times. The book of Ruth is filled with such beautiful stories of faith, redemption, and God's unwavering love. Let's reflect on these life applications and see how they relate to our daily walk with Christ. You see, friends, faith without works is dead. Ruth was a widow in a foreign land, but she didn't give up. She got to work, gleaning in the fields to provide for herself and Naomi. That's what faith looks like, my friends. Active, not passive. Maybe you're waiting for a breakthrough in your finances, career, or relationships. God is saying, get up and get moving. Take that first step, and I'll meet you there. God's provision often comes when we're in motion, putting in the effort. God will honor your faith and your hard work. Ruth didn't just end up in any field, she found herself in Boaz's field. That wasn't a coincidence, it was God's divine guidance. God strategically places people in our lives at the right moment. Think about your own life. Who has God placed in your path to help you? Be open to those divine appointments and embrace the people God brings into your life. Don't be afraid to ask for help when you need it. Sometimes it seems like God is silent. Naomi felt that God had dealt bitterly with her, but God was working behind the scenes. He was orchestrating a beautiful plan for redemption and restoration. We may not always understand God's timing, but we can trust His heart. If you're in a season of waiting, don't give up hope. God is working in the unseen. Trust that He's got you, even when you can't see the whole picture. Ruth was a Moabite, considered an outsider, but God's grace knows no boundaries. Boaz saw Ruth's character, not her heritage. That's how God sees us. He sees our hearts, not our past mistakes. If you've ever felt unworthy of God's blessings, remember Ruth. God's grace is available to everyone, no matter where you've been or what you've done. You are loved, accepted, and embraced by God. Let Ruth's story remind you of the boundless grace available to you. Embrace it and live in the freedom it brings. Boaz's kindness to Ruth spoke volumes. Simple acts like a greeting, an invitation to eat, and protection showed Ruth she was valued. We live in a world that can feel cold, but as followers of Christ, we are called to be different. Reflect God's love in everything you do. Small acts of kindness can make a world of difference. Be intentional about spreading God's love through your kindness. Naomi was filled with bitterness and despair, but through Ruth and Boaz we see God's plan of restoration. Naomi's emptiness was filled with joy, her sorrow turned into dancing. If you're experiencing loss or grief, know that God is a God of restoration. Trust in Him, lean on His grace, and you will experience His healing power. What the enemy meant for evil, God will turn it around for good. He will restore your joy and mend your broken heart. God uses ordinary people to accomplish extraordinary things. Ruth was an ordinary woman who chose to trust God. Because of her faithfulness, she became part of Jesus' lineage. The same God wants to use you and me. You don't have to be perfect or have it all together. All God needs is a willing heart. You have a unique purpose and a God-given destiny. Don't underestimate what God can do through you. Wow, what an incredible journey through Ruth chapter 2. This chapter teaches us that God's provision is always there, even when we can't see it. Reflect on these lessons. Are you stepping out in faith? Who has God placed in your life? Are you trusting God's timing? Do you believe in God's grace? How can you show kindness? Do you need restoration? Are you willing to let God use you? If today's message spoke to your heart, share this podcast with someone who needs encouragement. Stay with me. Our next segment will be about how Ruth's obedience led to a life-changing decision in Ruth chapter 3. Thank you for joining us today. God bless you. Remember, God's provision is always there, and His grace is sufficient. Until next time, stay blessed. Let's dive deeper into the story of Ruth and Boaz. Ruth's loyalty and Boaz's kindness are central themes that resonate with us today. We'll explore how these qualities can transform our lives and relationships. Ruth's unwavering loyalty to Naomi is a testament to the strength of familial bonds and the power of commitment. Boaz's kindness, on the other hand, shows us the impact of generosity and compassion in a world that often overlooks these virtues. Imagine living in a time where every decision could mean the difference between survival and despair. Ruth chose to stay with Naomi, not because it was the easiest path, but because it was the right one. This kind of loyalty is rare but incredibly powerful. It teaches us that true loyalty often requires sacrifice, but the rewards are immeasurable. Boaz's kindness extended beyond mere generosity. It was a reflection of his character and faith. In today's world, where acts of kindness can sometimes seem few and far between, Boaz stands as a beacon of hope. His actions remind us that kindness can create ripples that transform lives, including our own. As we continue our journey through the book of Ruth, let's reflect on these themes. How can we embody Ruth's loyalty in our own lives? In what ways can we show kindness like Boaz? Stay tuned for more insights and reflections as we delve deeper into this beautiful story. In this segment, we'll discuss the cultural and historical context of Ruth's story. Understanding the background helps us appreciate the depth of God's provision and the significance of Ruth's actions. Join me as we uncover these fascinating details. Firstly, let's consider the time period. The story of Ruth takes place during the time of the Judges, a tumultuous era in Israel's history marked by social instability and frequent Even when the path ahead seems uncertain, we can also look for opportunities to show kindness and support to those around us, knowing that our actions can make a significant difference. Thank you for being part of this journey through the book of Ruth. May the lessons from Ruth chapter 2 inspire you to live with faith, kindness, and a deep trust in God's provision. God bless you. We've journeyed through Ruth chapter 2, seeing how God provided for Ruth and Naomi in ways they never imagined. Now let's take a step back and reflect. How does this story connect with our own lives? Have you ever felt like Naomi, empty, bitter, or hopeless? Have you ever felt like Ruth, stepping into the unknown, unsure of what the future holds? Maybe you're in a season where you're waiting for a breakthrough. If so, this is for you. Provision doesn't always mean instant miracles. Sometimes God provides through small, daily blessings, food, shelter, encouragement from a friend, people who show kindness, like Boaz did for Ruth, opportunities to work and grow, like Ruth in the fields. Think about a time when God provided for you in a way you didn't expect. Maybe it was a job you got when you were struggling financially, a friend who encouraged you when you felt alone, a situation that seemed bad at first but later turned into a blessing. God sees you, He hasn't forgotten you. Let me share 3 different real-life stories of how God provides in difficult times. First one. A family in need. A single mother struggled to feed her children. One day, someone knocked on her door with a bag of groceries saying, "God put it on my heart to bring this to you." Second one. The right job at the right time. A man lost his job and had no income. He kept trusting God, and just when he was about to give up, he got a job offer from someone he barely knew. Third one. Healing through community. A woman battled depression after losing her husband. She prayed for help, and God sent people into her life who supported her emotionally and spiritually. Each of these stories reminds us that God is always working. Wherever you are right now, whether in your car, at home, or on a walk, I want to invite you to take a moment to pray. Father God, I thank you for your faithfulness. Even in my hardest moments, you are with me. Just as you provided for Ruth and Naomi, I trust you to provide for me. Help me to recognize the blessings around me, even when they seem small. Fill my heart with faith and remind me that you are my Redeemer. I surrender my worries to you today. In Jesus' name, amen. If you're going through a difficult time, know that you are not alone. God is working behind the scenes, even when you don't see it. As we close this episode, let's prepare for the next one. Ruth chapter 3, a step of faith. We'll see. Ruth making a bold move that could change her future. How Naomi's faith is restored after years of suffering. How Boaz steps into his role as a redeemer. I can't wait to share this journey with you. Until then, stay faithful, keep trusting, and remember that God's provision is always on time. This has been the Biblical Journeys Podcast, Season 2, Episode 2. God bless you, and see you next time.